I'm 84 years old, and I want to ask you something that may hurt a little. How many times have you picked up your phone this week, not because it rang, but because you hoped it would? How many mornings have you looked at that screen and told yourself, maybe today my son will call, maybe today my daughter will remember me, maybe today someone will ask how I am, not out of duty, but because I matter. If you are watching this, there is a good chance you already know that silence. Not ordinary silence, not peaceful silence. I mean that particular kind of silence that lives inside a house where the phone used to ring more often. That kind of silence that makes you start listening for sounds that never come. A car in the driveway, a message tone, a knock at the door, a missed call you pray you somehow didn't hear. And here is the part people do not understand unless they have lived it. It is not always the silence itself that breaks your heart. Sometimes it is the waiting, the hoping, the little excuses you make for the people you love. They're busy. They mean well. They probably thought of me. I'm sure they'll call tomorrow. Do you know how dangerous tomorrow becomes when you get older? Because at 84, tomorrow is no longer a casual word. Tomorrow becomes a promise you keep making to yourself, so you do not have to face what today is trying to tell you. And that is what this video is about. It is not about bitterness. It is not about revenge. It is not even about children being cruel. It is about what happens to an older parent when love slowly turns into chasing, and what finally happens when that parent gets tired, really tired. Not physically, spiritually, emotionally, the kind of tired that sits in your chest and says, I cannot keep doing this. I reached that point, and when I did, I made a decision I never thought a mother could make, not because I stopped loving my children, but because I finally understood that love and chasing are not the same thing. And if you stay with me, I'm going to tell you exactly what changed for me, why it changed, and what happened after I stopped reaching for people who had stopped reaching back. Because maybe, just maybe, what hurt me the most might help set you free. My daughter is 56. My son is 52. I still remember the shape of their little shoes by the front door. I still remember packing lunches, buttoning coats, staying awake when they were sick, worrying when they drove alone for the first time, praying through every stage of their lives. That does not leave you when you get old. People think motherhood softens into memory. It doesn't. It just changes shape. You may not be washing their hair or tying their shoes anymore, but your heart is still turned toward them, still listening, still available, still ready. And that is why this kind of pain is so hard to explain, because when strangers disappoint you, it hurts. But when your own children become distant, it doesn't just hurt your feelings, it shakes your identity. You start asking questions you never thought you would ask. Did I do something wrong? Did I love too much? Not enough? Was I too involved, too emotional, too available? Did I make myself too easy to forget? And tell me something honestly. Have you ever replayed an old conversation in your mind 100 times, looking for the exact moment everything changed? Because I have. I did that for months, then for years. A short call, a delayed reply, a birthday message with no warmth in it, a holiday visit cut shorter than it used to be, a new habit of I'm busy, another will come soon, another month gone, another silence explained away. That is how it happens, not with one terrible dramatic event, usually not. Usually it happens slowly enough for you to keep lying to yourself. And that, I think, is what makes it so painful. Because you don't lose them all at once. You lose them in pieces. A little less time, a little less effort, a little less warmth, until one day you realize you are the only one still carrying the relationship. And let me ask you something very important. What do older parents do when they feel something slipping away? Most of us do not step back. We lean in harder. We call more, text more, try more, explain more, forgive more, wait more. We become softer, more patient, more understanding, thinking love will bring them closer again. But sometimes that is exactly what destroys your peace, because at some point, love stops being offered freely and starts becoming a quiet form of begging. That was the truth I did not want to face. I was not just missing my children, I was chasing them. And there is something deeply humiliating about hearing yourself become smaller in the hope that someone else will become kinder. I remember one afternoon, around 4:30, the house was quiet, the kind of quiet older people know too well. The television was on, but I wasn't really watching it. I had made tea. It had already gone cold, and I called my son. He didn't answer. That part was not new. So I left a voicemail, just a soft one, nothing dramatic, just, "Hi, sweetheart, just checking in. Call me when you can." And a few minutes later, I listened to my own voice by accident. Have you ever done that? Heard yourself the way someone else might hear you? It changed something in me, because I sounded pleasant, gentle, calm, but underneath that voice was something I had not wanted to admit. Need, not love, need. And when older parents become all need, children feel it. They may not say it, but they feel it. The call is no longer just a call. It becomes a weight, an obligation, a pressure. And before you misunderstand me, listen carefully. I am not blaming older parents for being hurt. I am not saying children are always innocent. Some children are selfish, some are careless, some are emotionally lazy. Some simply do not understand what their silence does to an aging parent. That is all true. But I am saying something else, and it matters. If you put your whole emotional life into one ringing phone, you will lose yourself long before they come back. That was the truth I had to learn. My problem was no longer only that my children had become distant. My problem was that I had made their attention the center of my emotional survival, and that is too much weight for anyone to carry, especially people who are already halfway out the door of your daily life. So I want to ask you something. When was the last time you did something that had nothing to do with waiting? Not waiting for a text, not waiting for a visit, not waiting for a holiday, not waiting for your children to act like the people you hoped they would be. When was the last time you did something only because it gave you life? I couldn't answer that question, and that scared me, because I realized I had slowly stopped being a whole person. I had become an open hand, a window, a hope, a mother on standby, and no human being can live like that without shrinking. So one morning I made a decision, a small one on the outside, a huge one on the inside. I stopped calling first. That was the beginning, not the end, just the beginning. At first, it felt unnatural, almost cruel. I kept reaching for the phone out of habit. I would think, maybe I should just check in. Maybe something happened. Maybe today is not the day to stop. But that is what boundaries feel like at first when you have spent your whole life over-giving. They feel wrong, they feel cold, they feel selfish, when really they are just unfamiliar. The first week was terrible. I won't lie to you. My hands felt empty, my days felt longer. Every hour I fought the urge to reach out, and underneath it all was one frightening thought. What if I stop chasing them and they never come? Now that is the fear, isn't it? Not that we will stop, but that when we stop, we will discover the truth, that maybe the relationship was being held together almost entirely by our effort. And I think many older parents know this already. They just do not want to say it out loud, because once you say it out loud, you have to grieve it. And grieving living people is one of the strangest pains in the world. They are not dead, but something is gone. Something you thought would always exist. The natural closeness, the effortless affection, the sense of belonging in each other's lives. So what did I do with that pain? That is the question that matters, because it is not enough to stop calling. You have to replace the emotional habit of waiting with the emotional habit of living, and that is where most people get stuck. They say, "Fine, I won't call," but then they sit in the same chair, in the same silence, with the same ache. And of course the phone pulls them back, because emptiness always wants relief. So I changed something else. I called an old friend, a woman I had not spoken to properly in years. We used to know everything about each other once. Then life became busy. Then husbands got sick. Then grandchildren came. Then health appointments. Then grief. You know how life pulls threads apart. She answered on the second ring, and when she heard my voice, she said my name in a way that nearly made me cry. Not because it was dramatic, because it was warm. Do you know how starving hearts react to warmth? We talked for almost 2 hours, nothing urgent, nothing profound. And yet, when I hung up, something inside me had shifted. For the first time in a long time, I had not spent the afternoon hoping to be chosen by someone withholding themselves from me. I had participated in life. That matters. Please hear me. When your children pull away, the answer is not always to sit there and analyze them until you disappear. Sometimes the answer is to re-enter your own life, to stop staring at one closed door and notice the windows still open. So I began doing that. Not dramatically, quietly. I started going back to things I had abandoned, a church group I used to enjoy, a neighbor I always liked but never made enough time for, a weekly class at the community center, a small garden patch behind the house I had neglected for 2 summers, and every one of those things gave me something my children's silence had taken from me: motion, structure, meaning, contact. And slowly, almost without noticing, I began sounding different, standing different, thinking different. The desperation softened, not because the pain vanished, but because it was no longer my only emotional weather. Now let me tell you the hardest truth I learned. Children do not usually come closer because you chase harder. More often they pull farther away from pressure, even gentle pressure, even loving pressure, even wounded pressure. And older parents rarely see how much pressure their pain creates, because to us it feels like love. To them it can feel like obligation. That does not mean you are wrong for hurting. It means hurt can become a language that pushes people back when what you actually want is closeness. And that was unbearable for me to admit. But it was true. So I stopped trying to make my children soothe the part of me that was collapsing. That was my job now. Mine. Not because I stopped loving them, because I wanted to love them without humiliating myself. There is dignity in that, and dignity matters more in old age than many people realize, because when the body begins to weaken, when the world grows quieter, when people start assuming you need less than you do, dignity becomes one of the last things fully in your own hands. And if you trade that dignity for crumbs of attention, you will feel it in your soul. I did. That is why I stopped. And no, I did not stop loving them. I stopped presenting my pain to them like a bowl they were responsible for filling. That was the change, a deep one, a painful one, a necessary one. About 5 weeks later, my daughter called, not because I chased, because I had stopped. Her first words were, "Mom, you sound different." And I did. I wasn't performing sadness. I wasn't making her responsible for lifting me. I was simply there, steady, warm, present, still her mother, but no longer broken open in her direction. We did not have some miracle conversation. Movies lie about those moments. There was no dramatic apology, no sudden transformation, but there was something real, space. And in that space, relationship could breathe again. My son took longer. And that is another thing older parents must accept. Children are not all the same. One may come back sooner, one may stay distant, one may never become who you hoped. You cannot build your peace on their timing, because then you are still trapped. You have only changed the shape of the waiting. So I made a rule for myself. I would welcome love, but I would not chase it. I would receive warmth, but I would not crawl for it. I would be available, but I would not abandon myself in order to be remembered. That changed my life. And I want to ask you something now, very directly. Are you loving your children, or are you chasing them? There is a difference. Love leaves room. Chasing collapses inward. Love says, "I'm here." Chasing says, "Please reassure me." Love is open-handed, chasing is clenched, and older parents deserve to know the difference before grief and silence teach it to them the hard way. If your children have pulled away, I am sorry, truly. That pain is real. I will never insult it by pretending otherwise. But I will tell you this, your life is not over because their attention has become inconsistent. Your dignity is not gone because their effort became weak. Your identity is not limited to who still calls you back. You were a whole person before they were born. You are a whole person now. And maybe the deepest tragedy of aging is not being forgotten by others. Maybe it is forgetting yourself while waiting to be remembered. Please do not do that. Please do not spend the final chapters of your life shrinking beside a silent phone. Go find your version of purpose again, your version of friendship, your version of usefulness, your version of pleasure, your version of peace. Cook something, plant something, build something, teach something, join something, call someone who does answer. Become alive in your own life again. Because when you stop chasing people who keep stepping back, you finally have the strength to walk toward what still wants you. I'm 84 years old. I still have children. I still love them. But I no longer measure my worth by how quickly they reply. My phone still sits on the table. Sometimes it rings, sometimes it doesn't. But I do not sit there staring at it like it contains my value. That is the freedom I want for you. Not hardness, not bitterness. Freedom. If they come, let them come to someone who still has a life. If they don't, let them miss someone who chose dignity over desperation. And if you are sitting in a quiet room right now, wondering whether this message was meant for you, it was. Stop waiting by the window. Come back to your own life. Thank you for sitting with me. Take care of your heart. And please do not chase love so hard that you lose yourself trying to keep it.